Well, welcome everybody to our first for King and Kingdom Facebook Live event. And before I go any further, let me just give a quick disclaimer. We're actually not live. We videoed this earlier today, but we are joining you as this is going off at 7 o'clock tonight. So we'll be involved in some of the conversation through the chat if you want to do that. But we thought it would be better just to tell you we're not really live. We wanted to do it ahead of time, so we thought it would go pretty well. So welcome. We're glad you're here, irregardless of that. And we want to thank you for joining us, and want to kind of tell you a little bit about what we hope to accomplish tonight today when we're doing this with this event. First, let me just say that I want to just really briefly make sure everybody understands who For King and Kingdom is and what we do. A lot of you know that, but everybody's not fully aware of that. A lot of you know the name Moo, or Men of the Washtalls, or Men of the Ozarks. So For King and Kingdom is an organization, and our mission is to train and to support and to help other churches integrate and implement a Moo ministry or Moo retreat ministry in their own church. And so our job is to help churches learn how to do that, coach them how to do that, provide training for them. So that's what For King and Kingdom is all about. And we're really excited because our network of partner churches is growing. And we'll give you more information and probably more statistics about that as we go forward. So yeah, that's kind of what we're really here for, is to give you some information. It's been an exciting year. Exciting 2022 is coming. We'll kind of break the stats down on that later. So luckily for you, I'm not doing this by myself. I've got a special guest with me to do this. Many of you know Aaron Wright. Aaron Wright is a member of Lake Valley Community Church. He's also a very involved partner and leader in the For King and Kingdom ministry. I'm going to bring him in. Hey, Aaron.
Hey.
Glad you're here. Aaron's had a very involved 2021 with For King and Kingdom. It's been some amazing experiences that we've shared together. I want you to just take a minute and tell everybody kind of what 2021's been like for you in regards to your involvement with For King and Kingdom.
Sure.
Okay.
So this year, the last couple of years, I've done a lot more, been a lot more involved with For King and Kingdom for kind of breaking that down as to whether it's Men of the Washtalls or For King and Kingdom, and working with other churches, which has been great to see the ministry move through other churches as well, and see their love for it. But this last year, I was involved in 2 retreats with 2 different churches, not with Lake Valley. I also did the leadership retreat, which was great. It was a great way to kind of see a little bit more behind the curtain what happens. Even servant leading, it's still you still don't really understand what the teachers are going through at those times. So that was really enjoyable to get to see that. And hopefully get to do some of that this coming year in 2022.
Yeah, you went through the whole, because you have served before.
Yes.
And was this year the first time you've servant led before?
This was the first time that I servant
past year.
led.
Yeah. So you servant led this year, and then you went through the whole kind of curriculum for the leadership training. Did all the reading, wrote all the papers, did the presentation. And then we began having conversations about, potential other involvement for you with the ministry.
Yes.
Potentially as an upfront leader at some point in time. Yeah. So it's been a great year.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic year, and it's been really impactful for me spiritually as well. From with everything with COVID, kind of the isolation that you feel with that, being able to be involved in For King and Kingdom has really helped me a lot, and to be involved with other churches as well, because I was involved with the Grace Church retreat this year, and also for New Life for their first retreat.
Yeah, in fact, just to reinforce what you just said, we both did the Grace Church retreat back in, was it January we did that, or February?
Maybe. It's
the first retreat we'd done, since, I guess, the end of 19 or the early part of 20,
Yeah.
and just being back at Tucker Lodge at a retreat,
Yeah.
being with men in that environment was, well, we all needed it. It was like a cool drink of water, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely was.
And let me just say this about Aaron. Aaron is one of the key reasons that we have a relationship, that For King and Kingdom has a relationship with Grace Church. That all really happened because of Aaron's really good long friendship with Josh Meyer. I think you guys have probably been talking about the retreat for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I think it had been, we broke it down, I think it had been longer than that. I think
really?
The initial conversation, because I went through Men of the Watchtowers 10 years ago, and I think it was about 8 years ago that I kind of had that initial conversation with him.
With Josh?
And with Josh, and he moved around a little bit, and it was...
Yeah.
It was a cool journey to watch, frustrating at times because it took so long. But what an impact For King and Kingdom's had on their church.
Yeah, and we you got to hear more about what's going on at Grace Church in the weeks ahead, because we've got some videos that we'll share with you later. And Josh has become a key piece of the ministry at Grace Church.
Yeah.
He went through the leadership training as well with you.
Yeah.
It's a great story. Things going on at Grace Church is a great story. So you're involved with that leadership training. Notice you also have a tattoo.
Yeah.
A new tattoo, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your tattoo?
I've got a new tattoo.
Tell us about your shirt too.
Yeah, and it goes with the shirt. But I had this tattooed on my arm after the last retreat, actually, for New Life.
Right.
And I was talking with one of the servants after one of the teachings, and I said, I need something on my arm to remind me about this moment and what this teaching means to me. And I looked down and I actually had this shirt on, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I can incorporate this. So I actually had this tattoo done all the way down my arm, so that even if I've got a shirt on, I can still see the end of this line. And it goes all the way up to my bicep, and it says above the line, and I added this cross in here.
Nice.
But yeah, it's just a constant reminder for me about what this retreat, what that moment and moments after that retreat, that was an impactful time for me. I've found something in my story that I hadn't realised that was there, and I've been chewing on for 10 years. And so after that moment, I was like, I need to do something to remind me of this.
I think it's great. There's another piece of this that I'm not gonna. There's another video I'm trying to get Aaron to make, which involves Aaron doing some dancing. So I haven't quite convinced him of doing that, but it's all related to that story.
Yeah, it's all related. And anyone that wants more details on kind of how this story unfolded, give me a call. I'll be happy to tell you. Not quite comfortable doing it on Facebook Live.
No,
but,
it's a beautiful story.
But yeah, I'd be more than happy to share the story.
It's worth taking some time out of your day and letting Aaron tell you the story about the tattoo and about the experience that you had after the last experience.
And maybe we can do a video on it and put it up on the website or something at some point.
So the other thing I would say is if you're joining us tonight and you don't really, this above the line idea, it started at Grace Church, so there's a little bit of an insider phrase. I'm not going to try to explain what it means right now, but if you just shoot us a chat, or if you want to know more information about kind of what above the line means, some people understand what that phrase means and some don't, but it's really just a call to live in faith and trust, above the line of the imagination fantasy stuff that we do.
Trusting God rather than trusting yourself.
Right, exactly. That's kind of the short version of that. So talk a little bit more about the leadership retreat. Who was at the leadership retreat? We have some names that we can kind of throw out there.
Yeah, so another great part about the leadership retreat was that we had multiple churches involved. So to get to meet some of those guys and build relationships from other churches was great, and to also see how some of the other churches run the retreat. There's certain things that they do differently, and that was great to get an insight on that.
Yes.
and for me being a servant leader as well, it was good to take some of the learnings from that to implement into Lake Valley retreats or for King and Kingdom, whichever way around that goes.
Yeah.
But we had a few guys from Grace Church. We had Josh Meyer there.
Mm-hmm.
We had Chris, and we had Ryan as well.
Ryan Watkins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had some guys from Little Rock as well. We had Tommy
Bates.
Yeah. Jason Gerber.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had Mike Jackson couldn't make it
from New Life.
Mm-hmm. And also Joe Greenwood.
Mm-hmm.
They were meant to be involved, but
as well as Don Benton. From Lake Valley.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and
last minute.
Yeah,
2 of them were COVID related, last minute, and Joe had some family health things. They just jumped up at the last minute for him. But they were coming, and we did have Michael Dolan from Lake Valley.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that's something that I've seen in the last few years that is great. Seeing these other churches and influences coming in has really changed the retreats and streamlined it from serving for even as recently, I think, as 4 years ago. It's really changed, or it hasn't changed. The fundamentals are still the same, but it's just a lot more streamlined being at Tucker Lodge and having everything on hand.
Yeah.
So I think for anyone that hasn't served recently, it's always impactful for me every time that I'm at Tucker Lodge to serve. It brings so much back, and I learn so much every time. But to see how the retreat's evolving is great. So anyone that hasn't served, I would really encourage them to do that.
Yeah. Because part of this training is that we, as we grow, because we are growing, this 2021 is kind of exponentially for King and Kingdom's almost doubled. Maybe it has doubled in the size of the churches involved in the network. Well, that means we need more leaders, which is why we do leadership training, but we also need more servant leaders, and we need more guys that can kind of help us out in the kitchen with some of their special skills. And so as we go forward, we want to be more and more, we want to build the bench really deep. So if you haven't been involved and you want to be involved, these exciting things are going on. And would love to include you.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to kind of put those numbers in there. I think it was 7 churches that are involved now, and that's growing. There could be another.
There's an 8th church scheduled to do their first retreat in February.
Okay.
The Collective Church in Little Rock. So
Okay.
that'll be a new part of the network. And there's more coming.
Yeah, and with the alum being 600 deep or something.
About 600.
Yeah.
That's Texas. We can maybe say a little bit about Wichita Falls and kind of where they are. They're early in the process, and we need to be praying for First Baptist Church Wichita Falls. They're coming back in March, I think, for their 2nd retreat, and then we have a church in Baton Rouge, South Baton Rouge Church of Christ, and they're kind of in the middle of their kind of the process of getting ready to kind of be launched on their own. They're doing great. So 7 churches, an 8th one coming on, 600 or so alumni.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, and seeing the growth from Blaine and Andrew as well. I've been lucky enough to be involved in a lot of retreats recently. So to see their teaching and how that's evolved has been great to see.
Exciting.
And something that I've noticed that's been different in the last couple of years is the teaching isn't just dedicated to 2 people anymore. Part of kind of getting a little bit more depth on the bench and bringing in some more leaders and that kind of training process has really eased up some of the weight on the guys that are teaching. And it's great to see those different teaching styles and kind of how everyone interacts as well.
Yeah, and because they put their own spin, they bring their own gifts and talents to it. Someone said to me, I think it was, I don't know who it was, somebody said at the last event where some guys were together, they had been there while Andrew was there, and they said, well, I just thought Andrew was going to show up and just kind of do the same thing his old man does, but he kind of did it his own way, and it was really good. And that's just what they're doing. You know, Blaine's dad is Ron, and Ron's taught before, but Blaine is Blaine, and Blaine brings his own spirit and his own energy and his own talent to it as well. And it is nice, and it's part of the training process, really. It's kind of one of those unintended consequences. You start, you know, training people like Blaine and Andrew, where you're not going to just send them to a retreat by themselves the first time. You're going to co-lead with them. So you end up with 3 or 4 leaders there, and it just makes it a lot, I don't know what the word would be, I hate to use the word easier, but you're just sharing the weight while you're there coaching, and they're taking on some pieces, and I've enjoyed it a lot. I don't know that I would ever want to do another retreat with just one other leader. Yeah. I've really enjoyed having other leaders there, so. It's those are some things that have been going on. We'll continue to as we move forward. We've got another leadership retreat scheduled for June. We moved it from August to June to try to accommodate some people's schedules, and we already have people signed up for it. One of the things I was going to say was this is really, I think, a cool factoid. So you were at the New Life retreat,
yeah,
and I was there. That was in September. And I think if I did the math right, between the servant team and the leadership team, there were 5 different churches represented at that retreat, which is probably the first time it's happened where it was that eclectic, you know, in its approach. And it was a beautiful thing. You know, Joe Greenwood was there. A lot of you guys know Joe, and Joe didn't get to come to the leadership retreat, but I actually said, you're going to come help me lead. And Joe's actually been teaching a lot of this, you know, some of our big ideas kind of in the working world. Yeah. Obviously, he changes it some, so he did a great job. Exciting to have Joe get re-involved with For King and Kingdom. So he was one of the 5 churches represented that, you know, at that retreat. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And Mike Jackson was there as well. And me and Mike actually went through Men of the Lost Stars together 10 years ago. So Lake Valley. So it was great to catch back up with him. And it was great how seamless it was, just for the love of the ministry. That all these guys from different churches, and some of them I hadn't ever met before until we started doing the kind of getting geared up towards the retreat and kind of met for our meetings. But it was seamless how just the passion for the ministry really drove everyone in one direction. And I thought it was a great retreat.
It's so unifying because we all care about what we're doing. We believe the message is true, and so it doesn't matter that we came from 5 different places. It's very unifying. So 2021, first of all, just let me say, I'm going to say this again in a minute, but thank you everybody who helped us survive 2020 because we were shut down. I'll say more about that in a minute, but 2021, we got off to a little bit of a slow start because of COVID, there were some churches that weren't quite ready to jump back into the retreat setting yet. So I think we did like 15, is that right? 15, only 12 retreats in 2021. Full fall, but spring was a little spotty. But I think there's like 24 or 5 retreats already scheduled at Tucker Lodge for 2022.
Wow, it's going to be a busy year.
It's going to be a busy year. And we still have a few weekends open, so that number could go up a little bit. There have been some changes. When we first started, when we first got involved with Tucker Lodge, and that became kind of our home. Pam Ferguson was our first lodge manager. She did a lot more than that. Pam wore like a dozen hats. She wanted to retire earlier this year, so we went through the transition of Pam retiring, and it was really exciting the way it all kind of worked out, because a lot of you know Josh Wright, affectionately known as Tank. Tank is our new lodge manager at Tucker Lodge. I had no idea he actually had a background in the history of actually managing lodges before. I didn't find that out till I started talking to him, about the job. So he stays on the property at the Eagles Rest when there are people, which is next year is going to be a lot, Josh, by the way. And he's just doing a magnificent job. So that's been an exciting, difficult and challenging, but very exciting change to have Josh there. Yeah. Because, Josh loves what we do, and he's been a part of leadership teams before as well. So And we're also in the process of exploring adding another part-time staffer, hopefully maybe a CEO for King Kingdom for 2022. So those are some changes that have taken place. As we look forward to 2022, I think I've talked a lot about that already. So that's kind of where the ministry is at this stage of the game. I don't want to forget anything. Oh yeah, there is one other thing that I think is important. We're going to do, I think it's at the end of March of 2022, our first pastors retreat. Never done that before. We've talked about it for a couple of years. This has kind of been a felt need to offer a retreat for two reasons for pastors. One is sometimes pastors feel like they want to do the retreat, but they really want to do it, not with the men of their church. Sometimes pastors do, sometimes they don't. So we felt the need to provide that opportunity. Also, it's an opportunity to invite some pastors who don't have the ministry yet at their church and kind of let them kick the tires a little bit and see if it's something they want to bring into their own local body. So we're going to do that for the first time.
That's exciting because I know for Grace Church and I guess for New Life now, the some of the staff and members of the congregation have gone through the retreat, but they can't actually talk to their pastor about it.
Not much detail.
Yeah, in a lot of detail because they haven't actually experienced the retreat.
Exactly.
I know that's going to be powerful for them and really spur the ministry on in their church, because once they've actually experienced it,
yes,
it gives them a lot more kind of backing
absolutely
behind it.
Yeah, which is important, as we know.
Yeah.
So that's an exciting development, and so that's kind of a state of the ministry. I think I did mention a while ago that one of the purposes of tonight is we are. Instead of a written newsletter or an emailed newsletter, we're putting together a series of really short, I think like a minute or minute and a half videos from the leaders of the churches who are currently involved with For King and Kingdom. They have a MOO ministry in their church, and we just want everybody to hear it from their lips on what's going on at their church, how has this ministry impacted the men, the families, the churches that they're involved in. So be looking for those. Those will come to you through email and through text. Promise we'll keep them short, but you're going to want to hear what's going on, because there are a lot of amazing things. I've seen some amazing things happen. We've had men baptized in several different churches from several different retreats. I've heard stories of things that have happened when men came home that, they took control of some things in their life that have been kind of haunting them for a long time. Just a lot of freedom, spiritually, relationally, emotionally this year. So it's been a good labor this year.
Yeah.
So I said a while ago that I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about how we survived 2020. I just want to talk a little bit about that part of a nonprofit ministry and what we do. So a big thank you. Many of you last year or in 2020, when we hit the pandemic and everything shut down and we couldn't fundraise the way we traditionally had fundraised, we started making an appeal to alumni to begin supporting us on a monthly basis or an annual basis with their gifts, with their financial gifts. And the response was really wonderful. We started with, and I'll talk more about this in a minute, we kind of identified our impetus, something we call the 300, with the initial goal of finding 300, families, men, couples that would support us on a monthly basis or an annual basis. And we're about a third of the way there on that goal, but it was enough to get us through last year, because of 2020 and the early part of 2021, because not only could we not do fundraisers, but Tucker Lodge was not generating a lot of revenue either because it was shut down. So a big thank you to everybody that's doing that. I hope and pray you'll continue to be a support for us. The whole idea of the 300 comes from the story of Gideon in Judges. And we don't know if the number that God is telling us is 300. But it's a very inspirational story about how God wants to be glorified when He does something. He doesn't want us to take credit for something. So when Gideon showed up with, I think, 20-something thousand men, and God said, "Hey, if you tell them, and the ones who are scared can go home," and then there were only 10,000 left. So there were a lot of guys who didn't really want to be there, and then God just said, "That's still too many." And so He, through a series of things, Gideon ended up with 300 men. And in a proven a miraculous story without actually raising a sword, really just raising a torch and a trumpet, those 300 men were able to drive the Midianites. I think that's how you say that, from Israel. And so that's where the 300 idea comes from, is that, can 300 of us not just maintain the status quo, because we're growing and we need more help financially and with people providing leadership and service, to go forward and grow, to add new staff, to add a CEO, to expand our resources on the property at Lake DeGray. We need to continue to ask people to help us, be supporters, financial supporters. And so it is important that, this is important that we say this, that we all need to first make sure we're supporting our local church, because that's something that we're all are called to do. We feel like that's a very important part of the spiritual discipline that helps us grow spiritually and also supports the ministry of the local church. But if after you do that, you've got some other resources that you feel like you could share and help this ministry, not just maintain, but take the next step into 2022. We want to grow, beyond Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas. There's still a lot of ground to take. But if you'd consider doing that, we'll somewhere tonight, or when we produce this for tonight, we'll make it, put a link in there so that you can really easily, become a monthly supporter for King and Kingdom.
Yeah, and I think for me, I'm part of that monthly giving, and it was just kind of a no-brainer for me, seeing how much impact, not personally on my life, that this weekend and this ministry's had, but for all the other men that I've seen, to support that, it means a lot, and for, if everyone does a little, it goes a long way. Yes,
just a little bit. The 300 started off just asking people to consider a gift of $50 a month, and that's not a hard number, but all that adds up. And one of the dreams that we have is not just about increasing our holding at Lake DeGray or adding staff, but we really are imagining, what if we could, achieve a level of funding where we could make this so much more affordable for churches to come. Most churches, or all churches, really have to underwrite a significant part of the retreat. And, we're talking about, what if we could get that to a place where it was almost, I'll just say almost, they could come for no cost,
That's a great
Wouldn't that be a great vision? Yeah. So we're imagining that. And so being a part of our financial support is, that's the way we're going to get there. Literally, that's the way we're going to get there. So support your local church, and if you have some treasure and some that you want to share with for King and Kingdom and help us advance this ministry, we'd appreciate that as well. I think you have one last thing you want to say.
Yes.
We talked about a little swag, right?
Yeah. So we have the For King and Kingdom hats. We've also got some shirts, and we want to encourage.
I think you got a shirt behind you there.
Oh yeah, here it is. We want to encourage everyone to share this link and share this video to try and reach the 600 guys that have done this retreat, to kind of let them know where we're at and what the vision is. So for the first 10 people that like and share this video, you'll get free hats or a free shirt. So we'll keep a track of that when this video goes out, and we'll kind of get in contact with you and let you know who the lucky winners are.
Yeah. Let me just say something. There's a guy in Little Rock, I call him number 2. Just a little shout out to Brent Walker. I promise you, we don't have your hat yet. They are still on back order. So you're probably watching this going, "Where's my hat?" I've been asking for a hat for like 2 months. But number two, we're going to get to that for you. So yeah, share. Be the first 10.
First 10.
First 10 to share, and then you can choose a For King and Kingdom hat or one of the nice shirts that we have. So I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.